Okay, so in the studio today, we finally got in the Alienware 16X Aurora. Though surprisingly, the box does just say Alienware 16 Aurora, so I'm guessing they're using the same box for both models. So let's unbox it and get some first impressions. Now this model is available with Intel processors, either the 235H, 255H and the 275H. We bought it with the 255H, which I think is a good mid-range processor for this more affordable range from Alienware. This one comes in at £1,450 in the UK with the 5060, and we've got 16 gig of RAM and a 1TB SSD. So there's the laptop. Boxing very similar to the Area 51M style of box. We also have information, alien head stickers, welcome to Alienware and the EEC regulations, and power supply. So this model comes with a 180 watt Dell power supply. So reasonably compact, looks a bit old fashioned, not like the nice rounded 360 that we got with the Area 51 range. And then lastly, my UK plug with like a clover style attachment. Right, let's get rid of that box. So the laptop is wrapped very much like the Area 51 as well, with this sort of strange packaging, which is probably environmentally friendly. Let's get into the laptop itself. Wow, there we go. I'm liking that colour. So this is like a really dark blue, metallic blue. So definitely a lot darker than the liquid teal. Hopefully the cameras can see that colouring. A lot darker than the liquid teal on the Area 51, but I think that looks fantastic. Now the 16X is a metal chassis. If you buy the basic 16, you get a plastic chassis. So it'll be probably a little bit bulkier, and you get a much worse configuration with the 16. It starts at only £900 in the UK, but it starts with an Nvidia 3050, which I don't know why anyone's going to be buying that in 2025. So, alien head. Doesn't look like it lights up, but we'll test that in a bit. You can see the hinges there, and that looks like the Wi-Fi strip along the top, because obviously this is a metal chassis. Spinning it over, got an unusual style underside with this model. So we've got a thermal shelf here, no glass on this sort of cheaper range, just the Alienware sort of glyph there. And then we've got venting here and right along here, bringing that air in to that thermal shelf, and then a little bit more venting there. Now with regards to the exhaust vents, you see we've got some on the rear and then both sides. So very much like the Area 51 sort of exhaust. And when we talk about the ports, pretty good range of ports. On the left side, we've got a USB-A, a headset jack, and an RJ45. That's lovely to see. It's the flip down style, but it's nice having RJ45 on this laptop because the Alienware 16 Area 51 doesn't have one, despite being bigger than this. No ports on the right side. Then on the rear, we've got the power supply, HDMI 2.1, we've got a Thunderbolt 4 and a USB-C and another USB-A. So not a bad range of ports, particularly like the fact that we do get an RJ45. I think that's really handy on a gaming laptop, and it's such a shame that the Alienware 16 Area 51 doesn't have that. Right, let's open it up and take a look. So opening up, we've got that nice intake grill for the air coming in through the top to help obviously with that air coming underneath. There's a good airflow in these laptops. We've got a metal palm rest, aluminium feeling palm rest, and it feels like a plastic trackpad, but it does feel quite good. And then we've got a keyboard with number pad. So overall, I think that looks really quite nice. Again, bezels, not too bad. I think the bezels are probably a little bit smaller than they were on the Alienware 16 Area 51, but we do have a reasonable chin and top. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly pause here and run through the Windows setup to save boring you, then we're going to come back and start testing it. Okay, so I've done the million Windows updates and we're now up and running. So let's just quickly boot it back up and we'll start taking a look. Now I have been sort of using this very briefly whilst I have been getting it up and running. Now I'm not sure about this palm rest. I thought at first it was aluminium, but I think it might actually be plastic. It's got quite a strange feel. Again, it is sort of absorbing my fingerprints, but I think I don't know, it's a tough one. I think it might actually be some sort of plastic material. The trackpad itself, I've been using it for a little while now. Definitely plastic. Has got a little bit of a cheaper feeling, especially after using the Alienware 16 51. Seems to work absolutely fine, but just considering this is an Alienware laptop, a little bit disappointing. You know, the build quality on this model is not quite up there with the Area 51s. It has got Windows Hello, which is always a nice feature, so I can just log straight back on by looking at the laptop. So log straight in. There's something I noticed straight away. This is an Alienware laptop. They've not even given it an Alienware background. This does feel like a really cheapened Alienware experience after using the Area 51 range. Now the keyboard, as I mentioned, we've got a full-size keyboard with a number pad, but this is nowhere near the quality of the Area 51 keyboard. So again, I'm going to keep mentioning this, but these keycaps are a lot smaller. They don't have the same feeling, pressure or travel. So it does feel much, much cheaper. Now, if you haven't used the more expensive Area 51 range, this will be absolutely fine. But if you are used to using Alienware laptops, it's definitely not in the same league as some of the other mid-range laptops that they've used before. Now, above the actual number pad, we do have some dedicated volume keys, which are quite handy. And then we have the power button in the corner, but it doesn't seem to light up like the more expensive Big Brothers. Now, moving up to the screen, on this Aurora 16X, we do get the 500 nit panel. Now, this is the same sort of panel that we get in the Alienware 16 Area 51. If you buy the cheaper non-X variant of the Aurora, you get a 300 nit panel, which is quite dim. So it's one of the good reasons to bump up to the actual more expensive version. Also, you get, as I say, the metal chassis over the 16. Quality of the screen, absolutely fine. It is an IPS panel. And at this sort of price range, you probably could be expecting IPS anyway. And having used this on other laptops, a really great experience for gaming. Now, moving up to the webcam, we've got a 1080p webcam, which looks like this. And this is a test of the webcam on the Alienware 16X Aurora. Let me know in the comment section down below what this looks and sounds like. And as I mentioned, Windows Hello built in, which is always great. And as you notice, there is no speaker grills down the side. It's got two downward firing speakers, and they sound like this. Audio test of the Alienware 16X Aurora, starting at 50% volume. Now 80%. And then finally 100%. Well, what can I say? 2 by 2 watt speakers, average at best. Not particularly loud, don't sound particularly great. Nice work, Dell. Now, being Alienware, it does use Alienware Command Center, which again looks exactly the same like the other Alienwares we've reviewed so far this year. But obviously there's a little bit less to it because there's only 2 fans in this system, so it looks like there's less information. Now, as always with Alienware Command Center, not my favorite bit of software, as you can see, quite slow loading up. Now, when you want to just quickly get in and change a profile, that annoys me a little bit. This is actually not too bad. Sometimes it takes longer. So as usual, you get your quiet, your balanced, your performance. And this one doesn't say overdrive, it just says max, and that puts the fans onto max. Then finally, we do get a custom profile where you can sort of tweak that one in the actual performance section. Now, as always, you can adjust the lighting for your actual keyboard in this model, but there isn't per key with the Aurora range. This is a one zone backlit keyboard, but you can change the colors. Now, I've got, by default, it comes with the Aurora color scheme, which goes through sort of your blues and purples, but you could change that if you wish. Now, there is no other lighting. There isn't a lit alien head. There's no lighting on the bottom. It is only the keyboard that you can change the color on. And with the Alienware Command Center, you can change it on a system-wide basis for your profiles and your color, or on a per game basis, which you set up in the sort of the game area here. And it does have a dedicated mux switch, just like before. So if we go into performance, you can see we've got a dedicated mux switch, so you can switch the Advanced Optimus off and have a dedicated GPU if you wish. Obviously, that will kill your battery life. And another thing that we do have on these laptops, which I really like, is the TCC offset, because by default, Dell do let these laptops run up to 105 degrees C on the actual CPU. And if anyone that doesn't like that sort of temperature, you can drop this right down by using a -25 offset, and then that will bring it down to 80 degrees C, and I like that feature. Another couple of things I want to just quickly talk about. We do get the stealth mode with this model, which I really like. So it usually puts the keyboard to a white backlight and locks you into a lower power profile. So if you're in the office, you can just one button and your laptop's not going to be roaring and your keyboards are not going to be glaring your RGB out. But with this model being a one zone, it's not as big of a difference. And as well as the stealth key, we also get the performance key, which will put it in a performance mode. So with these two hotkeys, you can switch your performance mode without even going into the Alienware command center. So that's something I do like. One thing that does bug me with this cheaper range, you will get antivirus pre-installed, which is usually McAfee antivirus. I absolutely hate, and hate the companies that do that, so really annoying on Dell there. But other than that, it's a pretty clean Windows install. So with that out of the way, I'm now going to pop it onto the game desk behind me. We're going to run a couple of benchmarks and some gaming to see how well it does. Right, so we're set up on the gaming desk. I've got my Alienware mouse and headset picking up fine in the Alienware command center. Always a good start. Now, I'm going to first of all, before we start doing any games, I'm going to put it into the dedicated Nvidia GPU mode through the advanced Optimus and Nvidia control panel. I just like this, it stops me pinging in and out of it all the time when I'm doing any testing. So you can see Nvidia GPU mode, and there is G-Sync on this panel, and it's set up perfectly, so I know that's going to please a lot of people. Now, something to note, I have the 5060 version of this one. There is a 5070, but it says it is 115 watts, like it is on the Dell's website, but as you'll see in a second, that doesn't seem to be the case with the 5060. I'm expecting you're going to get more power with 5070, but again, very disappointed from Dell because they are not clear with the power they're giving you on these GPUs. Running a couple of benchmarks. Now, I have the Intel 255HX CPU, which is very similar to that 275HX, except we get slightly fewer efficiency cores. We still get the 8 performance cores. Now, if you go for the base i5 model, which is the 235H, that only has 6 performance cores. That is why I recommend at least starting with the 255. If you're using it for a lot of work as well as gaming, then you might want to consider the 275. But if you're purely gaming, the 255, I think, is the perfect mid-ground. Now, looking at Geekbench 6 performance, we're getting 2,851 for the single core, as we'd expect, and 16,386 for the multi, which proves it's not quite as good in multi-core as the 275 as we would expect. So that's pretty good news from the CPU side of things. When we move to the GPU, this is the first 5060 that we've tested. I'm running TimeSpy just to start, and it's quite disappointing here. The 5060 on this model, we're getting a 10,591, which pretty much puts it like a 4060 from the last few years. Really disappointing. I think that's due to the power budget. So we're going to fire up some games now. We're going to look at the temperatures, and we're going to see what wattage this 5060 is actually pulling. So I'm loading up the finals. I'm loving this game at the moment, and it should work perfectly with the 5060. Now I'm going to use the max profile, so you should start hearing these fans kicking in. This is the maximum fan speed for this laptop. So let's just see how that kicks in. So we're looking at almost 62 decibels, so it is pretty loud. I mean, you can probably pick this up on my actual microphone here as well. But at least this way we can see this is the best case scenario for temperatures. We'll see how well it performs. Now we're doing the shaders at the moment, and you can see here we're getting 83 degrees on that CPU, and we're pulling about, we're saying 70 watts at the moment. So not too bad. Not hitting those 100 degrees, which I'm quite pleased about. Now let's get into a game and see what that GPU does. So just whilst I'm waiting for the game to load, quickly look at the settings. You can see I'm at the 1600p. I'm running DLSS. We've got the high setting, RTX at medium, and quality DLSS, which I think is a good trade-off for the 5060. And we're off. So as you can see, using 98% GPU usage at the moment, and we're only getting 71 watts. So miles away from the 105 watts that it lists on Dell's website. But as always with Dell, they put a little asterisk on there. And when I looked deeper into it, it did say up to 105 watts, depending on the configuration. So my guess is Dell have done a Dell and only getting 105 watts on that 5070. Now that is a real shame, because they should make it very clear. If you're getting the 5060, we're going to actually gimp the performance for you. There's no reason, because look at the temperatures, 66 degrees on this GPU, so it's definitely not thermal throttling. but we are definitely only getting up to 70 watts. Now this obviously is pretty loud in this max fan load. I don't think I would want to be gaming at this personally unless I had some noise cancellation headphones on, but this is obviously the worst case. You could use it in either balance or performance, which we will test in that full review. Now, also, please make sure you do consider subscribing if you want to see the full review of this unit and all the other laptops we've got coming in at the moment. It's absolutely crazy here over the last couple of weeks. Right, I'm going to game for just a little while longer, die here just a little while longer, before we start looking at the temperatures a bit more and some temperatures on the actual laptop itself. Now you can see here, CPU, we're sitting in the 70s, so that is pretty good going. Again, still 60 degrees, 66 degrees on that GPU, no problems running this GPU. So it's just quite disappointing that Dell aren't giving us a 105 watt 5060. So have a quick look at the temperatures. So overall, one good thing is it is running pretty cool. I'm not noticing any temperatures under my hand when I'm gaming here. And also, it's just pumping some like very cool air out of here. So I'm not getting a hot mouse hand, which is one nice thing. That's something I absolutely hated about the Alienware 16 Area 51 I just tested. So there we go. Really enjoyed gaming on this laptop so far. It stays comfortably cool on the top. I'm not getting hot hands from out the side of the laptop. The internal temperatures were also very good, so a very solid release. Just a bit disappointed that Dell have actually capped the 5060 in this model to about 70 watts, and I don't know why that has been done. It isn't stated on their website. It states up to 105 watts, but then small print for the 5070. So I'm figuring if you're going to buy this and you get a good price, aim for the 5070. Now, I will be doing a lot more testing for the full review, so make sure you're subscribed for that one. But for now, thanks for watching.